So, this video is not one I anticipated making anytime soon, and I'm sort of surprised. Thanks for stopping by, guys, and welcome back to Scrap Mechanic. It has been a very long time, and I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts going into this video, solely because of how long I've been away from this game, and how many people have been asking me to return to it, and so on and so forth. But without any further ado, I do want to kind of say this video is in part because of a member in the community, Angel from Hell. You may have seen them in a few of my tank battles and some of my other content. However, recently they messaged me showing me a cannon design that them and their friends had been using in a tank battle, and it doesn't use glitch welds and is actually really good both downfiring, on the move, and with no major issues in the current update. So, we're going to be taking a look at it, a few other things, and some projects in the future possibly. So first thing to go over is actually the cannon design they had showed me. Essentially it is this is my own recreation with a two-shot version of it. Essentially putting down a cardboard that is attached to the entire frame with a shell that then is pressurized by these two arms. These arms are on bearings, and those bearings are storing the charge from the controller. As soon as that cardboard is broken and this canister is free to move, all of that stored energy releases and fires. That is it. It is just these bearings. If I put, oh, that was the wrong block. There we go. 2 pieces of cardboard and 2 rounds. There's a little bit of logic so that the background always fires first. And you'll hear a little horn. This cannon is honestly just really good. A few little details of like, it takes some time to charge up. The actual cannon itself has some charging time because you have to wait for these bearings to actually rotate their full power to get the full cannon. This little sensor up here is to tell when the bearings are done pivoting. The little alarm is to tell you it's done. And has a few other benefits, like you can actually dial in the power of the cannon by adjusting slightly these actual values. The downsides, it's pretty big for what it is. This is only a 2-shot cannon, and it is this big. It is large. And originally I was actually going to take this cannon as it is here and build a tank around it and kind of make a prototype similar to how I did with the Aardvark. Essentially a 2-round light tank for what would officially be my first MBT in some time. However, not to discredit Angel or any of their friends, but this isn't actually a new concept. Having a cannon that is powered by bearings storing a charge on arms dates all the way back to this guy. This is the MBT Mark 7. Admittedly, there is a lot more advancement in here, some new blocks from the survival update, and just this is a much better cannon than this thing. Like, hands down, while it does follow the same concept, this has been refined to a near perfected version. However, after actually messing around with this old tank, it got me kind of curious what other sorts of old cannon designs might work in the survival update. And if you didn't believe me, here is the actual cannon. The same principle of cardboard, canister, charging power on bearings, and arms. This is the Mark 7. And whilst looking at the Mark 7, there's another Mark 7 in my inventory. The Mark 7 armored car. of all things, that has a similar system of charging power on a bearing. This one does it significantly different though. This one has a arm that is built into the cannon, a single arm, to which you put 2 blocks of cardboard and your round. What happens then is as this starts to charge power onto those bearings and this arm, it presses the cardboard against this block, holding it in place, and then these 2 spud guns fire one after the other, one to let the bearing free and start spinning, the other to let the canister free and go flying. And this is one of my old designs with the concept of DFST, downfiring cannons. So, what if we modernized this with some of the new technology we had figured out and some of the developments we had done in taking since, and we get this. This is using the same exact principle of storing power on a bearing to let it loose in a rotational manner and then disconnecting the round to allow it to fly. You will notice that this cannon is at an angle solely because the way this works, the round just flies off at an angle. If this is normally flat, it would go up into the air, so putting the cannon itself on an angle so that the shell flies vertically. And with this, just putting on cardboard, loading in shells, and we have 4 rounds ready to go. That all fire really fast. And the same thing as with the cannon over there, you can actually modify the values on these bearings to increase or decrease the power. And what is essentially happening here is similar to what is happening in the armored car. The top bearing is what rotates and stores the charge. The bottom bearing is on a controller, but that's only to make the bearing stronger. I don't know how that works in scrap mechanic logic, but having a bearing on a controller makes it physically stronger. So, the bottom bearing is what holds the power. The top bearings are what generates the power. So the bottom layer of spud guns fires first, letting that rotational motion out, and then the top spud gun disconnects the round to let it fly, and this removes all the moving components that would normally be in this design. It's just cardboard that is getting destroyed. So you don't have as much backlash, you don't have as much just physics jank, and it's really fast and easy to reload and really compact to do so. I keep placing the wrong block. I should probably get those out of my inventory. And I'm going to cut that barrel because I noticed that it did detonate when I was showing it. And all of this has culminated in what you see before you, the newest MBT. Now, I am not continuing the conventional MBT number structure because we were in like the 50s, we were in the 60s somewhere. So, this is the modern Mark I. And it takes a lot of inspiration from things like the Naga, the Minotaur, and a few other of the modern tanks. However, it's not as polished as those because this was kind of built as a prototype, as a test, as a check to see if these are actually functional and worth working on again. And I must say I'm happily surprised. Taking a look around it, it looks okay. Experimenting with different blocks is something I'm going to have to do in camouflage in the near future. However, as for functionality, it has everything you would expect from really my modern MBTs, other than one notable exception. I don't have a turret unjammer in this. I had intended to and just kind of never got around to finishing that part. But that cannon there is the actual cannon in here. Still at the angle, but it has all the stabilization settings set up on it. And it just works. It just works really well, like really surprisingly well. If I come out here, cannon fires on the move. If I get up to somewhere with a little bit of elevation, this tank does also have kneeling capabilities, so I'll activate that. Get the gun down. So there's a lot of gun depression available. The only downside is, because these are still using spud guns, the way it actually operates does give some horizontal motion to the cannon. So firing down, it's not as accurate to the spud gun as it could possibly be. You do have to compensate a little bit for that horizontal motion. So if I want to hit the base of that rock there, I should be right about here, I believe. Little low. There you go. But because this cannon is able to be tweaked with its power, it still does the fun little thing that almost all of my cannons can do, wherein the round follows ballistically with the spud gun itself. So whatever you aim at with the spud gun, it should always hit, with the exception of firing down because of the issue I just stated. So if, for example, I want to hit, let's just pick a target, that rock that sits there, right about there. I want to turn off the machine gun just so I can fire. And it hits the rock. It did bounce up, but it did hit. And if I want to, let's say, try and hit that tree over there, the one big brown one. As soon as I make sure my spud guns are on it, and hitting, I should be able to fire and strike. I am really happy and surprised by this tank. It works really well. It is very stable, very reliable. The only downside I believe I've noticed is it doesn't work well under lag, but that's kind of par for the course with a lot of tanks. Even pre-update, that was a big issue. So that being said, scrap mechanic tanks might be back. And with that being said, I'm going to end out this video here. If you guys have any suggestions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments below. Any ideas, any kind of concepts you want to try, or if you're excited to try and make MBTs a thing again in Scrap Mechanic after the update broke so many stuff. But without further ado, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking around. And until next time, peace.